All right, Martin Phipps, you were the composer on the latest miniseries adaptation of War and Peace, which has been adapted time and time again. So, how did you find a unique approach to the music?
I had some direction from the director, but not
Mhm.
that much. He was very open to ideas, and when he first approached me, to be honest, I wasn't even that keen on the project. I was trying to move away from doing period drama
Mhm.
and sort of wanted to do, yeah, I definitely wanted to work on something more modern at that time. And he kept coming back, and it was, it's War and Peace. It's kind of, hey, it's like it's hard to turn down. So
Mhm.
I had a long, hard think about it, and then I went back to him and said, I think one thing I really don't want to do is write you a traditional period drama score and have well, strings and piano. Basically, is I think your standard period drama score, and I want to avoid that as much as possible.
Mhm.
And so it was, and when he was completely kind of on board about that and very positive about that, I then went away and had a real think about what kind of direction I did want to go in, and picked up on a few things that they'd used during the shoot, which was they had recorded some live Russian vocals, and which were incredibly effective, all male choir vocals, and I picked up on that and said, well, what I'd really love to do is take that sound, and then mix it with modern instruments and mix it with synths and some proper electronics and other percussive sounds, and see where we go with it. And Tom Harper, the director, was really up for that. So that's kind of that was the sort of main starting point and the way in, and then quite a lot came from there and developed from there.
You do have quite a bit of experience in the period drama arena. Um, so, and I did find when I was listening to the music of this sort of a haunting quality to it, and I guess that was added by the vocals of it. Sort of like, what was the feeling that you were trying to capture for it?
So okay, so overall, the idea with the score, as a general idea, was to somehow capture the real personal smallness of these people's lives,
Mhm.
surrounded by the huge, vast epicness of the historical context and where it was set. So the music was either very small and intimate and very personal, or huge and big and sweeping. And that was the kind of ideas. That was the thing we sort of bounced back and forth from in trying to put the score together. And the vocals, well, the vocals again. So that was represented in the vocals in that we had great big large man choir, huge great male choir, and then just a single solo voice, which was actually another man, although it sounded like a woman. It was a countertenor singing in a kind of very ghostly, very intimate, sort of personal way, and so that again, that sort of showed the balance between the two. And Yeah, I mean, I love using vocals. Vocals are such a it's such a obviously so emotive. It's as human an instrument as you could possibly get, and when you can make it work when there's the sweep and the canvas to work on with vocals, it's a great thing to be able to use it.
Absolutely, yeah, it really does add something to it. Um, so this is a six-part miniseries, or limited series, as they like to say
Mm.
now. Um,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, in your process of writing the score, were you were you thinking of it as individual episodes, so each episode has to have its own arc, or were you thinking about it more in context of like a 6-hour movie?
No, we were a 6 hour movie, definitely.
Hmm.
Definitely. It's not a, the episodes aren't standalone. They don't have a theme they have
Right.
their own individual arcs, but they are very much part of a bigger sweep. And I think it was the real job of the soundtrack to make you feel as an audience that you'd been on a long, long journey. Actually, longer than, it should have been longer than 6 hours. And that was certainly one of the criticisms of it, that it was too short, that it was actually should have been, should have. And I think if they'd known how it was going to turn out, they would have made it longer if they possibly could have done. But the music really, hopefully, helped you to move in that big arc, that big sweep, and so that by the final episode, you really felt like you've been on a journey through time and space with these characters, and had the highs and lows of their emotion, and ended up somewhere different from where you started. But yeah, that was very much a planned arc right through the whole series.
Mm-hmm. So then take us through your process, through the process of scoring this thing, basically. I mean, did you watch the whole thing, the whole 6-hour thing, once it had been put together, and then you
Yeah, no, the way it works and the way I like to try and work, if at all possible, is I came on really early. As soon as I decided I wanted to do it, I dived straight in, and they were still filming out in Russia and Lithuania. They were filming, and I went out and met Tom, the director, and spent some time with him on set, and just snatched the odd hour here and there when he could have a break, and just played him music and talked to him and see what he reacted to, what he liked, and what I was working for me. And then I went home, and they still had another 8 weeks filming to go at that point, and I just went home and wrote stuff for 2 months. I just sat and wrote stuff, not to picture, with the script in mind, but not specific scenes. Really, just trying to write stuff that sit there and let it come to me, and soak up the kind of different ideas we talked about, and see what came out. And that time to really play around and experiment and sort of feel your way around something feels really important to me, and is often, sadly, I often don't get the chance to do that. The schedule just isn't there. I come on late to a project, or they just don't know. They don't commit to a composer that early. So it's great when they do. And so I gave them a whole bunch of stuff after 2 months, probably 8 tracks, or 7 or 8 tracks, pieces of music, and they started editing to it. And so they didn't use, or they hardly used any temp track at all. So temporary music to the film. And so it was all mine in there from the very beginning, and these themes, and they played them to death over and over again, in repeating over and over again, which, they got sick of them and I got sick of them. But the effect was that it gave it a real identity from the start, and wasn't just a mishmash of other people's scores and differing ideas, which then, if you then come as a composer to a very functioning, working temp track, it's often harder to find your own identity in it. And I didn't have any of that, which was just great. So I then just went back, and once they'd locked the picture, once they got the edit in a good position, we went through all the scenes, and I just worked out how to improve those bits that I'd already done, and adapt them and make them fit and work them. And that was a great process. It was really, really nice. I mean, I was on it 7 months, which is a lot more than most stuff. So
that is really, a lot of time.
Yeah.
So throughout this 7-month process, was there a particular passage of music that gave you a bit of difficulty, or something that was hard to kind of crack? And
I mean, again, almost no, because partly because that music had gone in early and everyone liked it, so I wasn't, maybe personally, I was struggling with certain scenes to make them work. But it was, it was a real joy to score. I mean, there's a cavalry charge in the first episode, and that I spent a lot of time on, and that was just based around a traditional chant, a kind of rising chant, which goes up semitone by semitone, getting more and more intense with it's a baritone singer, singing at the very top of his range. He starts off low and he just goes up and up and up and keeps on going up and up and up, and gets more and more intense until you sort of almost don't know, you can't bear it. It's going, and then it breaks out into this, everyone all together singing this big theme. And that I spent a lot of time on, underscoring that with electronics and these sort of pounding beats going on underneath it, driving this thing forward. And but it wasn't hard. It was pleasurable, really. It was great. The only scene I think I possibly did struggle with was towards the end of the series. Napoleon's arrival outside Moscow. I remember finding a hard cue to to nail, but it was never like sometimes where you're 24 hours before you're recording and panicking and really no idea what you're going to do. So it was no, it was a real joy, real joy.
Mm-hmm. And the intimate character moments as well. I mean, you know, you spoke about balancing those two elements of the story. I wonder if you could talk a bit more about just those moments, those more intimate moments.
Well, the intimate things for me is really, it's. I mean, it's a sort of obvious thing to say, but I always, you want something to be emotional and to be intimate and to be very personal, and yet you don't want it to be sentimental or too. I like music always to have a sort of tension within it somehow. Even if it's sweet, it's somehow there's that it never quite lets you just relax and think everything is going to be okay. And I always try and build that in some way, a slight unexpectedness in the music or something. Having said that, the personal moments and the small moments were just sometimes very, very simple piano, just stripping it right back and as making it as bare as I dare.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I think it worked well. I think it was nice, and it was great to have it's great to have have a director have the courage to allow me to do that, to really pull things back. There was one scene, there's a ball scene in episode. It depends if you're talking about the UK versions or the US versions. In UK versions, it's episode 3. And there's a big ball scene at the end where Natasha finally dances with Andre. And we used the piece that they'd recorded on set for them dancing, which was actually recorded completely live on set. And for half the dance, big traditional flourishing waltz, and then just yanked it out in the middle and just disappeared off into space and was replaced by this tiny, very small, intimate piano theme, which took you right into Natasha and Andre dancing together. There was that moment of, at one moment they're in the room with everyone else, the next minute they're just in their heads, just in a world of their own. And that was a lovely moment. I think that was a really nice, again, the director warmed to that idea very early on, let me do it, and ran with it, and it was great.
Mm-hmm. You've worked with Tom Harper before. So what is that collaboration like? What makes you keep coming back?
Well, it's just, that's a lovely thing when the director comes back, and it means they are going with you because they like you and they like what you do. And that's a great position to start off a job with. So it's always a pleasure working again with the director. And Tom was, from the outset, he was like, you tell me what you want to do, and again, that's just such a great vote of confidence. So, I mean, I couldn't have asked for more than that from Tom, really. He was really supportive and liked stuff from the go, but chipped in with important and valuable steers at certain points. He didn't get involved in the detail of what we were recording, or he didn't suddenly come out with I hear horns here, or it was none of that. It was more like, this is what we need to feel here. This is wrong because we should be with this character here, and just big key steers like that, which are really helpful. And the guy really knows what he's doing. And when you're working with someone who really knows what they're doing, then you have the confidence to know what you're doing, and that's again a beautiful thing.
So what is it that attracts you to the projects that you do? You go back and forth between film and television. What do you look for in something?
Yeah. I think it's just what interests me. It can be anything and diverse, and it's very hard to pinpoint what some things interest you and some things don't. But it's a combination of factors. Obviously, usually it's the size of the canvas and the emotion that you have to play with. I don't want to write sentimental music, but I like writing music that connects emotionally with the characters. And I think it's having a film that allows you to do that. I've been offered horror films in the past and stuff like that, and it's not my genre, and I don't really work with it because something like that is specifically trying to make you feel one emotion, i.e. scared. And and frightened, and that doesn't particularly interest me, or is thinking I'm something that I'm particularly good at. But whereas it's characters that are alive and vibrant, that's what's really attractive. And then put that in a historical context or a geographical context that's interesting and unusual, then you've got lots to play with, and that's what seems important to me. The thing that scares me most, and what I'm sort of always worried about, is ending up on a project where it doesn't really interest me, and I'm not inspired by the people, and then because in the end it's just me and my computer trying to turn this stuff out, and if I'm not engaged, then I'm in real trouble. So it has to be the material has to be good, whatever it is.
Now, you've gotten a couple of Emmy nominations for your efforts. I wonder if you could talk about what that recognition meant to you.
It was great, and really, I think it took me a little while to realize just how great it was. I mean, the first one came out completely out of the blue, and I didn't go, which I really regret. The second one I did go, and it was just a great event, just awesome. And in terms of the world stage, doesn't get much bigger recognition than that, certainly for TV anyway. So that was really something special.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on your work. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Real pleasure talking to you. Thanks, Zach.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
Cheers.
Cheers.